There's a couple of things here, Jake. I mean, let's speak hard truths, right? First of all, Department of Defense never should have done this. I disagree with it, and I'll put an end to it as president.
You're talking
you
about
have to go through
the
Congress.
reimbursement policy for travel for abortion.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because you have to do these things through Congress. We have three branches of government for a reason. You can't slip something in there like that and think that Congress is not going to be upset. So first, I'll put an end to that, and you'll handle it through the proper channels. Well, if you're going to talk about tradition, shouldn't Department of Defense do things the right way so we're never in this mess to start with? Let's call it like we see it. Department of Defense started this.
Hey folks, Dale Jackson here for Yellowhammer Now. Looks like we have some new players on the field when it comes to attacking Tommy Tuberville over his position that the United States military should stop doing things that are illegal. Now, the number 2 Democrat for the state of Alabama, Tabitha Eisner, has been engaged in a days-long misunderstanding, pretending that she doesn't really understand how exactly Tommy Tuberville is criticizing the United States military. But because she is so sad, I will show you one tweet that shows you how incredibly pathetic she is. Eisner seems to suggest here with this tweet that I refuse to put my bigotry in writing. Why is it you seem so proud of it and yet are unwilling to write it down? Why? Her problem here is, of course, I'm not a bigot. I've never said anything bigoted, and she can't show me anything bigoted. But what she's doing here is the same thing you are seeing people do with Tommy Tuberville. Instead of acknowledging what he is actually talking about, the military paying for abortion, they pretend they don't understand what he's talking about by getting all bent out of shape about things like poems. Now, they don't know any better. They can't help themselves. What do you expect them to do? Actually discuss the issue at hand? Well, they can't do that because they don't have a good argument. So instead, it's all about the fact that Tommy Tuberville said maybe they shouldn't be reading woke poems on a boat, which of course means he hates poetry or something. But as Tommy Tuberville has said repeatedly, this is about inserting politics into the military and it being too woke. The poem was an example. So he said this on the floor of the Senate. If Democrats in the Biden administration continue to inject politics into our military, then our children and our grandchildren will live in a much more dangerous world. If we lose a strong military, then we lose everything. And he is exactly 100% correct. And he has been making this argument for a long time. And the fact that people are pretending he doesn't understand is kind of embarrassing. Now, that comes from someone on his comms team making it very clear, using the words of the senator, exactly what's going on. Now, there will be people who say, gee, I wonder what he means by this. I don't understand. Don't listen to those people because they're not smart. Now, someone who is actually pretty smart, Michael McCall, he is a United States House member, and he is making the argument that Tommy Tuberville is crippling the military. Now, I don't agree with that argument, but I will hear the argument out because in order to disagree with something, you have to actually listen to it and you have to be able to understand it. If you can't understand the argument being made against your position, how do you argue? Well, you call somebody a racist or a bigot or something else instead of actually talking about the issue at hand. So let's listen to what Michael McCall, a United States representative, has to say about Tommy Tuberville's holds.
This is paralyzing the Department of Defense. You know, the idea that one man in the Senate can hold this up for months. I understand maybe promotions, but nominations is paralyzing the Department of Defense. I think that is a national security problem and a national security issue. And I really wish he would reconsider this because we're working this issue out in the National Defense Authorization.
Now, I can respect that position. That position makes a lot of sense. But Tommy Tuberville is taking action on the issue while you guys are trying to work this issue out. He's trying to force the hand of the military and make them do the right thing, which you clearly agree that what he's doing is the right thing. You just want to use the normal process to fix it. The normal process didn't work because what they decided to do was break the law. Now, the words here used by McCall will make Jake Tapper and CNN very happy. They'll make Democrats very happy. A Republican is criticizing Tommy Tuberville. that means other Republicans should do so as well. Fix the problem, and guess what? Tommy Tuberville has said he will stop his holds. He said this from the very beginning. It was very easy to figure out. He said, I'm going to hold this if the Biden administration does it. There's a couple of ways I will end my holds. One, you change the policy and make what they're doing legal. Two, Biden stop doing illegal things. And you can even add a third thing in here. The House, once again, and the Senate reaffirmed that this is not legal, and they stop doing it. So either make what they're doing legal or stop it. Those are your options. McCall knows that. What he's saying here is he understands and agrees with Tuberville's point. He just doesn't like the way he's doing it. So that means that in this statement, he's actually criticizing Joe Biden. He doesn't like Tommy Tuberville's tactics, but he doesn't like what Joe Biden is doing either. We should just let him keep doing it. Okay, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Just let him keep doing things that are illegal because you don't like his tactics. That also came out of the mouth of Nikki Haley, who is running for president. And her whole shtick on abortion seems to be, I'm against abortion, but we should just let people do it because it's bad politics not to. That's where she's been so far. I, on the other hand, am pro-abortion. I just don't think people should be allowed to break the law because if Biden can do it, anyone else can do it. Now, a lot of people don't understand that. Those people are called morons. And every now and then you got to tell them that because being that stupid should hurt them. It should cause them pain to be embarrassed in that way. But Nikki Haley, she's going to say, this is Biden's fault. This is the administration's fault. But Tommy Tuberville is somehow the bad guy here. I don't understand it, but let's hear what Nikki Haley has to say.
Republican Senator Tommy Tuberville is currently, and for months, has been holding up more than 300 military promotions in the Senate, non-political positions, including the Chief of Staff of the Army, the Commandant of the Marine Corps, the Chief of Naval Operations, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs role is set.
You know, it's funny to say that those aren't political positions, yet you have the leaders of three of the branches of the military out criticizing Tommy Tuberville, one of them saying he's working with communists to destroy the military. So we can call all these things non-political positions if you want, but Jake Tapper doesn't even believe this, but he'll say it anyway because that's what he's supposed to do.
Set to be vacant at the end of this month. I know you have criticized his decision. The military says this is hurting readiness. I know as a military spouse, you know, military spouses are really upset about this. Why is the Republican Party tolerating this?
There's a couple of things here, Jake. I mean, let's speak hard truths, right? First of all, Department of Defense never should have done this. I disagree with it, and I'll put an end to it as president.
That's great. That's absolutely great, but you're not president right now. So you're on Tuberville's side. You're agreeing with what Tommy Tuberville says and what he thinks on this issue. What they're doing is illegal. Okay, that's good.
You're talking
You
about
have
the,
to go through Congress.
the reimbursement policy for travel, for abortion.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because you have to do these things through Congress. We have three branches of government for a reason. You can't slip something in there like that and think that Congress is not going to be upset. So first, I'll put an end to that, and you'll handle it through the proper channels. Secondly, we don't need to be using military families as political pawns.
Now you've done the wrong thing, Nikki Haley. You're not only using their language, you're factually wrong. Joe Biden is the one using them as pawns, not Tommy Tuberville. Tommy Tuberville says, go back and follow the law. Do what we've been doing for 30 plus years. That's the right thing to do. Joe Biden's the one who said, I don't want to follow the rules here. You're criticizing the guy who made the right decision and said, enough of this, you shouldn't be breaking the rules, not the guy breaking the rules.
That's a mistake. The military members and families, they sacrifice enough. They don't need to be a pawn in Congress. But look at the political games that continue to play. Chuck Schumer could still get this done if he went through and listed each member and had Congress vote on each member.
But Ambassador,
right
do
now,
you know what that
he's
would
saying
do? I mean, do you really want to have, I mean, the tradition is, generally speaking, that the Senate just votes unanimous consent for 300 people to be promoted. Oh, you think the military is political now? You really want to have the U.S. Senate voting on somebody being promoted to major, to lieutenant colonel, to...
When they're non-controversial, it's fine. Tuberville has pointed out individuals in there that he finds controversial. You just want them all through. That's not how it works. Their job is to advise and consent. They don't have to do it, and Tuberville doesn't consent to some of these. Chuck Schumer could have the votes. Tuberville said he'd vote yes on a lot of these people. Jake Tapper, it's too complicated. Well, you say it's been months. Could have done some of them. Could have done the ones you mentioned by name earlier, but no. You want Tuberville to break. And he's not going to do that.
Colonel to ambassador, to admiral. Every single person is going to have their social media posts scrubbed. You really want, like in the U.S. military, Bernie Sanders, Joe Manchin, like everybody's going to decide everybody's promotions?
So you don't think Joe Manchin and Bernie Sanders should have a say in these things in the advise and consent part of their job? So I'll make sure I understand this. Tuberville's right. Tuberville's doing the right thing. Tuberville's saying the right things. Tuberville's done the right thing. But it's just hard. So let's just go ahead and move forward anyway. It's amazing. It's an amazingly bad argument by Jake Tapper.
This is how we're going to do promotions from now on?
Well, if you're going to talk about tradition, shouldn't Department of Defense do things the right way so we're never in this mess to start with?
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right, Nikki Haley. So why are you slamming Tommy Tuberville? And the headlines that all came out of this were that Nikki Haley and other Republicans were slamming Tuberville. When really, they're not. They're saying he's right. They just don't want to go through the hassle.
Let's call it like we see it. Department of Defense started this.
Exactly correct. So while everyone says that Tommy Tuberville's the bad guy here because Nikki Haley and others are criticizing him, understand this. They're actually taking the wood to the DOD and the Biden administration. They just don't like that Tommy Tuberville's making their job harder politically. I don't like that either personally. But he's right. And every now and then you got to stand up for what is right. And that's what Tommy Tuberville is doing. And I would much rather have that fight going on right now. Well, they're trying to figure out what they're going to do with appropriations, which, by the way, is the Senate going to agree with that? Or are they going to hold up the whole thing over abortion? I bet you they will. I bet you they absolutely will. So now those United States senators are going to be forced to vote to keep funding this illegal policy, or they'll be seen as someone who's cracking down on the right to abortion. I don't read this as politically as bad as everyone else does. There are some pitfalls here. But even the people that everyone is touting as criticizing Tommy Tuberville, if you listen to what they actually say, they're actually criticizing the outcome of what Tommy Tuberville is doing because it's making the politics for them harder. They're not criticizing what he thinks or what the DOD and the Biden administration have done. But that's not making it into the stories, is it?